Hi everyone, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today we are playing with a small key element of basic foundational yoga poses that should form the very basis of any good yoga practice. For beginners, this is the ideal opportunity to have enough time to look at your form and alignment for each pose. For more seasoned yogis, this provides the ideal opportunity to get deeper into your practice, holding each pose with good form for at least 30 seconds. Understand that being able to execute these poses with good form means that in a faster paced class, you're able to move with confidence and with strength. As always, play where you're comfortable, modifying where you need to, and taking a time out in child pose should you need it. You ready to play? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class towards the bottom end of the mat, and you're going to ease your way into child pose. Find your way to a kneeling frame, float the big toes together, allow the knees to softly splay out, and then gently extend your arms on the mat in front of you as you find your way to child pose. If you find that the hips are really tight, maybe reach for a block, place the block on the floor in front of you, maybe bending your forearms, stacking them, resting them into the block, and then finding your way to a comfortable rest on the forearms. If you're really tight into the hips, give me a little wiggle. Settle the weight of your hips open. Remember that child pose balasana is traditionally your rest or recovery pose during any yoga class if you need a little time out. As you become more comfortable in child pose, start taking your focus in. Forget about all outside distractions, and for the next couple of minutes, focus on your body and what's happening on your mat within your space. Gently begin extending the arms out on the mat in front of you, pushing softly into the fingertips and the palms, and pushing the weight of your hip bones back as if somebody was standing behind you, gently pulling the hips back, trying to get your bum to connect with the heels of your feet. From here, gently ease your way into a 4-point kneel and float your bum up to the ceiling. If the back chain of your legs is really tight, maybe just bending the alternate knee as you settle into your first down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Trying to extend through both legs when you can, pushing the floor softly away with your hands, checking that your hands are more or less shoulder width apart and the feet hip width distance apart. Pull your belly button in towards the center line, piking your bum up towards the ceiling while getting a good stretch through the arms and the legs. This is an ideal way to stretch absolutely every single muscle in your body. Hold for at least 5 to 6 more breaths, and then we'll find our way into a warrior one shape and we'll ease into it. Soften through the right knee, and if you can, swing the leg up to the inside of the right hand. If the leg gets stuck on the mat, grab a hold of that leg, wiggle or step it to the front of the mat, and check that you've got your knees stacking over your ankle so that that joint is supported. At first, keep your back toe tucked under and push the weight back into the heel of the back foot, coming up and floating your hands overhead to frame your ears. Check that you're not leaning everything into that lead leg. Give me a soft push back into the heel of the back leg so that you can feel your body weight distribution is equal. Then look to the alignment of your back leg. See if you can step up the back leg slightly and drop it to a 45-degree angle so that your hips are looking to the front of the mat, not to the side, to the front of the mat. Keep those hands floating overhead and check your body weight distribution. The weight should be coming down evenly through the pelvis towards the mat. Fingertips are softly floating to the ceiling, but the collarbones and the shoulders are softly dropping away from your ears. Ease your way back into a down dog frame, piking your bum up to the ceiling, pedaling it out if you need to, and then settling into your dog. Pushing into the hands and the feet simultaneously, piking your bum up to the ceiling, keeping that belly button fused to your spine. Every time you come to the down dog shape, try to drop the heels of your feet as close to the floor as you can, progressively opening up the back chain of the legs. We're going to repeat that warrior one line on the left. Soften the left knee, swing the leg through to the inside of the left hand, keeping your back toes tucked under as you find your sense of balance. Pushing back into the back heel as you float your hands overhead and find that center of gravity. When you're ready, think of what's happening on that back foot, maybe stepping it up slightly, dropping it to 45, and checking that your hips are softly looking to the front of your mat. Checking that lean. I want that weight coming down evenly through the hips, reaching with your fingertips softly for the sky while softening the shoulders away from your ears and keeping that belly button softly pulled in as you find Warrior One, Virabhadrasana One. Great strength pose, great for the legs, beautiful foundational pose. We're going to ease our way back to our down dog frame. Pedal the legs out, and then when you're ready, settle into your frame, piking that bum softly up to the ceiling. At any time, finding your way into child pose, big toes together, knees open wide. If you need a little bit more of a timeout and you find the down dog too rigorous between poses. Play where you're comfortable. From here, we're going to set up a warrior two line, and we'll play on the right side of the body first, softening that right leg, swinging it through. Check that you've got knee over ankle on the lead leg and drop the back leg to 90. As you come up, think of gently windmilling, opening up the arms and giving me a soft T frame. Check that your back leg is at 90, knee over ankle on the lead leg with your hips now looking to the side of the room like little headlights. Watch that you're not dropping that back arm. So maybe sneak a look back, check that your arms are in a soft T, and then come to rest with your gaze steady over your front forefinger. Keep lengthening through both sets of fingertips as if you wanted to touch the walls at opposite ends of the room, and check that your body weight is coming down evenly through the hips with your weight distribution equal on both legs as you find Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2. From here, you're going to windmill your way back down to the mat, easing your way back into your down dog or finding your way into child. Every time you come to down dog, try to drop those heels progressively closer to the floor, increasing the stretch along the back chain of the legs and into the arms. Almost think of gripping the mat with your fingertips, drawing energy up through the mat so that you keep those arms engaged and hugging in towards the center line, not loading into the wrists, but rather engaging the forearms, the upper back, and the chest. Let's repeat that Warrior Two line on the left. Soften the left leg, swing it through to the inside of the left hand, drop your back leg to 90, windmill your arms into a beautiful soft T-frame. Reach with your fingertips softly for the walls at opposite ends of the room and check that your hips are looking to the side of the room. Body weight coming down nice and evenly through the pelvis towards the mat, and then maybe sinking your warrior a little bit lower to the floor as the hips and the groin start opening up. Keep your gaze steady over the front forefinger and try to have that weight distribution equal on both legs. Soften your way back down to the mat, easing into child pose or finding your down dog and taking it for a walk. Settling into your dog, pushing into the hands and feet simultaneously, pike that bum up to the ceiling. Keep your breathing steady and even, and on each exhalation, Try to get a little bit deeper into the stretch. Look for those areas of tightness in your body and try to breathe through them, opening up the body progressively with each successive movement. We're going to find our way back into our first warrior two on the right, and then we'll work a little progression. Soften the right leg, swing it through. As you step up, check that alignment on the lead leg, drop your back leg to 90, and windmill the arms open, finding your first warrior two shape. Once you've found it, we're going to reverse that warrior. Keep your gaze on your front hand, invert the palm, drop your back hand to your back leg, and think of wrapping the lead arm softly around your head, almost as if you were curling around the head. And look up softly towards that palm. Sink the weight down. Check that the weight is coming down evenly through your pelvis, and that backhand is either just resting on the top of your thigh, or you can wrap it in towards the inner thigh and hold on to that leg as you sink as low as you can, giving me a slight crescent shape through the back and softly looking up towards that palm. Keep the weight distribution equal on both legs. Hold Parivrtta Virabhadrasana, reverse warrior two. Gently peel back down to the mat, easing your way into child or finding your down dog and trying to work it a little bit deeper. Often in a vinyasa or a flowing class, where there's consistent movement between the poses, your down dog is often the transition from one pose to the next. Find your warrior two line on the left, swinging through, checking the alignment on your lead leg, dropping the back leg to 90, and windmilling your frame open. Lengthen, find your basic warrior two frame, then invert the front hand, drop the back hand to your back leg, find your resting spot and frame your head, gently looking up towards that palm. Sink the weight of your hips down towards the floor, progressively opening up through the pelvis as you find your reverse warrior shape, thinking of softly pulling up an imaginary zip from your pubic bone towards your belly button to keep your lower abdominal area engaged, protecting your lower back. Ease your way back into your down dog or your child. Try to drop those heels, connecting them to the mat as best you can while piking your bum up to the ceiling. Think of drawing that energy up through your fingertips, making sure you keep your elbows hugged in towards the center line and engage your shoulders, your chest, and your upper back. We'll work a triangle line from here, finding a basic setup or step through as if you were thinking of coming into a warrior two frame. So softening the right leg, swinging it through to the inside of the right hand. Instead of dropping your back leg to 90, think of that warrior one frame where your foot was more at a 45-degree angle. So step it up if you need to slightly and then anchor the foot into the mat, dropping down through the heel of the back leg as you windmill your body up and straighten through both legs. Check that your hips are looking to the front of the mat. And then pretend that somebody's tugging your front arm forward. Pop the back hip out slightly as you hinge forward from the waist to find a resting spot for the right hand on the inside of the right leg, pushing with the back of your palm against the leg and resisting with the foot while lengthening and thinking soft T-frame through the top arm. If you have the range of motion, maybe dropping or sliding that arm down so that your fingertips or your palm connect to the mat. Try not to rotate through the hips. So you're trying to stack your left hip on top of the right and keeping the body beautifully open. If the floor is not accessible for you and you find that you need a little bit of an assist, maybe taking a block and placing the block on the inside of your foot, finding as much of a lean in as you need to open up through the chest. As you come into that soft T-frame, almost think of allowing the two shoulder blades to float together behind your back and expand laterally through the chest as you open up through the arms. Utthita Trikonasana, open triangle. Ease your way softly back to the mat, stepping back into your down dog or finding your way into child balasana. Push into those hands, push into those feet. If you're in down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. If you're in child pose, balasana, allow the big toes to touch and open up the knees, making enough space for your chest to comfortably fit between the legs. Soften through the left leg, swing it through to the inside of the left hand and step up the back leg at a 45-degree angle as you open up into a soft T-frame, trying to keep both legs in extension. Pretend somebody's pulling that lead arm forward, hinge forward to find your placement on the inside of the left leg. Think of straightening up through that top arm. Almost pretend that somebody's tugging on the top arm, trying to lengthen you through the torso. If you have the range of motion, keeping the stack of your hips, maybe dropping your bottom fingertips down to the floor or connecting the whole palm to the mat, trying to keep your right hip softly stacked over the left as you find your way into your triangle frame. Keep your breathing steady, inhaling and exhaling through the nose if you can, and trying to soften and deepen into the pose with each exhale. Ease your way softly back into your down dog frame or find child. Drop the crown of your head down to the floor as the back chain of the legs starts opening up and softening. Really try to anchor through the whole foot, making sure that you've got weight placement into the big toe, the baby toe, as well as the heel of your foot. Hold it there for at least 10 more seconds, and then we'll find our way into a wide standing straddle, Prasarita Padottanasana. Soften through the right leg and step it up to the inside of the right hand, pivoting on the back leg so that you can open up the legs into as wide a straddle as you can manage, either connecting your fingertips to the mat or dropping your hands to the tops of your thighs. Check that your feet are not splayed out towards the corner of the mat. Try and square up through the feet and think of giving me weight placement on the heel, the baby toe, and the big toe, trying to plant or anchor all of the weight into your foot. Check that you're not leaning into the balls or the heels of your feet. So you're finding a midway point between the two and opening up as much as you can through the groins. If your hands are on your thighs, maybe run the hands softly down the outside of your thighs, thinking of making the outer quadrant of your foot your goalpost. So reaching for the outer quadrant of your foot and then dropping the crown of your head down towards the floor. Not trying to anchor your head into the floor, but just dropping as close to the floor as you can. Engaging your inner thighs, engaging the whole foot, and pulling up softly from the pelvic floor towards your belly button line. If you've got both hands on the floor, maybe just softly walking the hands away and allowing the crown of your head to gently drop down towards the floor, giving me a softness through the elbows if you can. Check that weight placement in your feet. Keep it equal. And then gently peeling up along the center line and pivoting to face the front of your mat. Step up the back leg and plant your feet more or less just inside of hip width distance apart as you soften through the knees to ragdoll roll up, finding your way into mountain Tadasana. Check that your feet are looking to the front of the mat, stacking in parallel underneath your hips. Tuck your tailbone under, pull your belly button in, and drop or weight the fingertips down towards the floor. Think of rooting through your feet, almost drawing energy up through your toes as if you were gripping the mat with the toes and the heels. Think of the energy drawing up through the arches of your feet, bleeding through your ankles, through the shins, the knees, up along the thighs, through the pelvis, making your way up along the spine, giving me a beautiful long line through the body. Check that you're not leaning forwards or leaning backwards into the mountain. So you want your body beautifully stacked. Think shoulders stacking over your hips stacking over your knees stacking over your ankles. Tadasana, mountain. Feel rooted and connected to the earth, strong and ageless like a mountain. Let's ease our way from here into a forward fold, Uttanasana, finding our way into a tabletop first. Float the palms to the tops of your thighs and hinge gently forward from the waist, sliding the hands down the top of your thighs as you come almost into a tabletop position. Soften the elbows and think of a beautiful tabletop line, almost as if you were trying to balance a teacup and a saucer on your mid-back. So give me a beautiful straight line. Try not to drop your head towards the floor. Think of giving me a long line through the neck and the spine. Keep gently almost dropping your shoulders away from your ears and trying to grow from the mid-back towards the nape of your neck. Either staying here or running your hands down the top of your legs and reaching for the floor if you can, either with your fingertips or with your flat palm, or reaching once more for your block if the floor is not accessible for you, and finding a lean-in position with the palms gently connected to the mat. Then gently play with the weight placement in your feet, rocking the weight gently back and forth between the balls and the heels of your feet, and see how that changes the stretch that you're feeling along the back chain of the legs. Allow the crown of your head to float down towards the floor, almost as if there was a magnet gently pulling the crown down towards the floor. Then try to come to stillness with the weight placement somewhere between the balls and the heels of your feet. If the back chain of your legs is nice and open, if those down dogs have done their job, you might be able to invert the hands if you've connected them to the mat and maybe creep them past your ankle line, giving you more leverage to drop the crown of your head down towards the floor, almost thinking nose to knee, and open up a little bit more in your forward fold. Look for those areas of tightness, breathe through them as you find your Uttanasana, your forward fold. From here, we'll work a little vinyasa or a flow. Soften through the knees, connect your palms to the mat, fingertips looking to the front of your mat, and step back into a plank line. Feet just inside of hip width distance apart. Make sure that you're not hanging through the shoulders. Push the floor strongly away with your hands. Fingers open nice and wide, lots of space between the fingers. Shoulders stacking over your wrists. Brace your core, brace the tops and the back of your thighs. We're going to work a four-limbed staff or a chaturanga to get down, and you can drop to the knees and use the knees for support if you need to. Think of softening the elbows, but don't chicken wing them out. Keep hugging them in towards the rib cage as you bend down softly through the elbows and come down with control. So lots of loading through the arms, trying to hover your chin off the floor for a second or two if you can, before gently dragging the weight forward over your wrists and maybe rolling over your toes to come to rest on the bridges of your feet, finding a modified up dog. If resting on the bridges of your feet is not comfortable for you, maybe tucking the toes under, but keep the weight traveling forward over your wrists. Make sure that you're bracing your core and that you're pushing the mat strongly away as you come into a soft back extender, keeping that core braced as you find Urdhva Mukha Svanasana up dog. Ease your way into a down dog, or find your way into child if you need a little bit of a timeout. As you settle into your down dog, which you're using as a counterbalance to the up dog you were just in, push the mat strongly away. Think of drawing that energy up through your fingertips as you find your Hasta Bandha through the hands. Drop the heels of your feet down to the floor. And then relax your down dog slightly. If you were in child pose, find your way to down dog, maybe coming up onto your fingertips, stepping up one leg at a time or softening through the knees, finding a relaxed dog. You're going to take a little hop, maybe crossing one leg behind the other as you find your way to a seated frame on the mat. Easing your way into a butterfly line, Baddha Konasana, bringing the soles of your feet together, opening up the knees into the side of the room. If you're feeling a bit tight through the groin, maybe drop the fingertips to the mat behind you. Rocking your weight gently, bum cheek to bum cheek, side to side, and incrementally creeping your pubic bone closer towards the heels of your feet so that you can feel that opening happening through the groin. Keeping your hands on the floor behind you, or wrapping your hands around the feet or the ankles and bending your elbows, pushing out with the elbows on the inside of your knees as you think of softly wrapping your head over your toes. Just keep the first butterfly nice and soft, maybe rounding out gently through the back, and keep pushing with the elbows on the inside of your knees as you come into your butterfly. Baddha Konasana. Opening up beautifully through the groin. And then gently extend one leg out in front, shaking it out if you need to, and replicating on the other side, coming into a high seat on the mat. Check that you're not stuck behind your bum bones. Maybe move the bum flesh out the way. Make sure you're anchoring into the mat with both bum bones, and sit up nice and tall with the arms softly at your side, either fingertips connected to the mat or giving me a flat palm. Try not to hang off your bum bones. Try to sit up beautifully tall, as if you were trying to keep your lower back and your shoulders pressed against an imaginary wall. If you find it really impossible and it feels like you keep hanging off your tailbone, maybe reach for your block and tuck your block underneath your bum, sitting just on the knife edge portion of the mat, allowing your pelvis to softly tilt down to the 6 o'clock position so that you can get more beautiful extension through the back, and just give me a beautiful long line. Playing where you're comfortable. Keep lengthening the crown of your head up to the ceiling, almost as if you were a marionette and somebody was gently pulling on that string. So give me as much length as you can through the crown. And then ease your way into a seated forward fold, maybe creeping your hands along the mat or your fingertips along the mat to gently drape your torso over the tops of your thighs. If you have the range of motion, you can maybe reach for your toes as you find Paschimottanasana, a nice little seated forward fold. If the toes are not accessible and you do have a strap or a hand towel at hand, you can just gently loop around your feet, floating your elbows wide. Make sure you've got the same amount of play on both sides of the strap as you fold forward and think nose to knee. If the back is really tight, and maybe if the back of your legs is also tight, maybe just pedal it through and use your breath to help you relax and release into the forward fold. Maybe taking a big breath in to prepare, and on the exhale, just making your forearms and your arms and your chest heavy into the mat. Maybe holding for 5 to 10 seconds, and if the stretch becomes too much, peeling back up along the center line. And with each successive exhale, trying to drop, relax, and a little bit deeper into your forward fold. Just playing where you're comfortable. Ease your way back up along the center line and find your way back into that butterfly line. Soles of the feet together, knees open softly out. Maybe taking your thumbs and placing each thumb on the arch of each foot as if you were pulling two orange segments apart, allowing those fingertips to softly splay around your feet, finding a good grip position as you push with the elbows on the inside of your knees. Start with that back softly rounded, and then change up your butterfly stretch by uncurling your head like a little fern frond, thinking of tucking your chin over your toes. Pretend that your toes are a bedpost and your chin is the fitted sheet that you're trying to fit around. So getting a nice stretch into the lower back area and just changing the way that you're experiencing that stretch, releasing into the shoulders if you need to. Wiggle around, release, find the release that you need. Ease your way back into staff pose, Dandasana. This time, as you drop your fingertips to the mat, try to engage the tops and your inner thighs and your lower abdominals and see if you can float those heels to hovering just off the floor. Push into the feet as if you were pushing against the wall and try to really get an awesome stretch along the back chain of your legs as you lengthen through your lower back and think of extending through the crown. Almost dropping your bum bones into the mat while lengthening up through the spine towards the ceiling. Creep your hands forward or float them overhead, and on an exhale, fold forward, trying to come back into your seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana, and trying to relax a little bit more through the lower back. Use your breath. Big inhale in to prepare. Exhale to soften, relax, and release. Try not to fight that stretch. Try to soften through the vertebra. Pretend that your back is beautiful, soft, and elastic, and somebody's gently pulling on the crown of your head, trying to lengthen those spaces between the vertebrae, allowing you more leverage to come closer and closer with your chest to the tops of your thighs. Peel back up along the center line and ease into your butterfly line one last time. Maybe wrapping the hands softly around your ankles while you push with your elbows along those inner thighs, trying to open up, and then playing with that chin line, either keeping your back soft and rounded or uncurling your head and think of tucking over your toes and trying to stretch into the lower back area, looking for more of a release there. Identify your tension spots and work into them. We're going to come into staff pose one last time. As you extend out, maybe floating your fingertips up towards the ceiling as you try to engage your inner thighs and your lower abs and float those heels just off the floor, lengthening up with your fingertips towards the ceiling. Take a big breath in, maybe interlacing the hands this time and trying to hook them over your toes, or taking your block, placing it in front of your feet, hugging the block into your chest while pushing away with your feet, getting a nice little stretch here, or staying with the bases and just dropping your fingertips to the mat, maybe using your strap or your hand towel, playing where you're comfortable. Give me a couple of soft breaths here. Then gently peeling up along the center line and tucking your way into easy sit, Sukhasana. Let's lead with the right leg in front. So bend the left leg, place the sole of the foot on the inside of your perineum, and just stack the right leg in front, giving me a soft forward fold to maybe connect just the fingertips or the palms and the elbows, resting your forearms on the mat. As you fold forward, if the floor is not accessible, take your block. Find the dimension that you need and maybe stack the forearms one on top of the other as you gently find a resting spot for your forehead. Close your eyes, take your focus in, and just drape the body softly into the mat. If you've connected your forearms, maybe gently push with the palms into the mat and sink your hip bones back. Take a big breath in and peel up along the center line to stack your torso over your hips. Take the right hand to the inside of the right knee. Gently push the knee away as you rotate softly to the left. Fingertips finding placement on the mat behind your left hip bone, and just softly keep pushing with that right hand. Focusing on the opening that's happening through the groin area and the hip flexors on the right, and try to keep your spine long and lengthened. Try not to round out and try not to lean back aggressively into the backhand. So maybe just give me soft fingertips on the mat, almost pushing the mat away and focusing on the length through your spine rather as you come into that twist. Take a big breath in and take your twist in the opposite direction, pressing with the left hand on the inside of the left knee and opening up softly through that twist as you look over the right shoulder, almost peeking to the back of your mat. Come back to the center line, either staying in easy sit or tucking into the half lotus line, Ardha Padmasana, by taking your right heel and tucking it to the inside of the left hip bone, finding a resting spot on the top of your left thigh. Place the right hand on the inside of the right knee and gently come into that same twist you played with in round one, gently pushing the knee away. Think of that opening that's happening through the groin area. Don't worry about how close that knee is coming to the floor. Just work with what your body's giving you. Inhale and bring it back to the center line and take the twist in the opposite direction. Coming back to the center line, placing your fingertips on the floor and then creeping your hands forward, holding the half lotus line if you can as you softly drape your torso over the legs, thinking forehead to floor, pushing softly with the forearms and sinking your hip line back. Hold this stretch for a few breaths here, and then we'll ease our way into a boat line, Navasana. Gently creep your hands back, uncouple your legs, and come into a soft tabletop line with the knees as you dip the weight just off your tailbone. Arms are either softly floating alongside your table legs, or you can brace behind the thighs if you need some support, or coming to full extension, lengthening through your toes and the crown of your head, zippering up on the inside of your ankle bones all the way along the inner thighs and pulling up strongly from the pelvic floor. Then tuck straight into easy sit, leading with the left leg in front. Lengthen up through the spine, bum bones beautifully weighted. Take a big breath in and then gently fold forward, using your block if you need to, making the crown heavy to the floor. Push into the forearms, sink your bum bones back, keep that belly button softly pulled in. Look for the stretch. Peel softly up along the center line. Place your left hand on the inside of the left knee and take a soft twist to the right, floating the right fingertips to the floor behind you. Push that left knee away. Try to open up softly through the groin. Check that you're not leaning all of your body weight to one side. Keep those bum bones equally weighted into the mat and lengthen through the spine. Inhale to come back and take the twist in the opposite direction, pushing with the right hand on the inside of the right knee as you softly rotate in the opposite direction. Hold. Find your way back to the center line and tuck into the half lotus line, reaching for your left foot and tucking the heel of the left foot on the inside of the right hip bone, wiggling around and finding soft placement. Take the left hand to the inside of the left knee, push that leg away as you rotate softly to the right, opening up to the groin area on the left. Long and lengthened through the spine, bum bones beautifully, evenly weighted. Inhale to come back and take your twist in the opposite direction, pushing with the right hand on the inside of the right knee. Or if that left leg is still tight, maybe crossing over the midline and pushing opposite hand to knee. Play with it. See what works for you today. Ease your way back towards the midline of the body. Take a big breath in. Connect your fingertips or your palms and your forearms to the mat, or use your block as you find a soft forward fold. Ease up along the center line and find your way into your boat line, uncoupling the legs, either holding behind the thighs as you tip the weight of your tailbone, or float the arms alongside your legs, your shins, or come into full extension, lengthening through the toes and the crown of your head, keeping the weight off your tailbone and engaging, pulling an imaginary zip from the inside of your ankle bones all the way along the inner thighs, pulling up strongly from your pubic bone all the way to just below your breastline. Then softly bend the knees, connect the soles of the feet. Make sure that you've got enough runway to play behind you. We're going to take it into a little spinal roll. Great way to release the lower back area and open up the tightness along the back. Bracing softly against the shins, start by nodding your chin to your chest and rounding out through your spine. Looking down towards your pubis as you round out. Tip the weight off your tailbone, allow momentum to pull you back as far as your shoulders, coming back to maybe softly connect your feet to the mat. Play with that movement. If you're comfortable there, work the next progression. As you rock back up, try to keep your feet hovering off the floor by engaging your inner thighs as if you were pulling an imaginary zip from the inside of your knees, connecting all the way along the inner thighs and then pulling up from the pubic bone towards your belly button to keep those feet floating. If that feels good, start softly extending the legs along the mat, keeping as much, almost dragging your toes and then bracing into the heels, keeping as much bend in the back of the knees as you need to as you come into a soft forward fold, and then rocking back, almost thinking of coming into a plow line as you allow the arms to soften at your side, keeping as much bend in the knees as you need to as the legs start opening up. Maybe tapping the toes to the floor behind you and trying to stretch that little kink behind the knees. Play with the rocking motion. If rolling backwards and forwards is not for you, just gently make your way onto the back. Hug your knees into the chest and softly brace around the shins or the knees as you cradle rock side to side. Play where you're comfortable. Give me 2 more rocks here, and then we'll end on the back and we will come into a little bridge line. Find your way onto the back, maybe hugging your knees in towards the chest and just cradle rocking your body side to side for a second or two before setting up your bridge line, Setu Bandha. Bend your knees and connect the soles of your feet to the mat. Feet and knees hip-width distance apart, feet not too far from the body. Scooch them in closer towards your bum line. Check that you've got a neutral spine position, little space between your lower back and the mat, but belly button softly pulled in. Chin tucked towards the chest, don't arch and look up to the ceiling, shoulders heavy into the mat. Take a big breath in, and from your neutral spine position, on the exhale, tilt your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position so that your lower back imprints into the mat. Start peeling up one vertebra at a time, disconnecting your back line from the mat and coming up nice and high on the shoulder blades. Piking your hips up to the ceiling, maybe walking your shoulder blades in, tucking them behind your back, creeping your feet in if you need to so that you've got a beautiful alignment of your knees over your ankles. Don't drop the bum. Think of bringing the hips up evenly towards the ceiling, engaging your glutes, engaging your hamstrings, engaging your quads, feeling that nice little stretch on the inside of your hip bones as you find your bridge line, making the belly button heavy in towards the spine as you keep working that bridge. Check that you're not Ving the legs up. Try to keep your knees and your feet a consistent hip width distance apart, as if you had a little elastic band holding the legs in position. Soften through the shoulders, open up that tightness there first, and then roll down really slowly. Connect one vertebra at a time to the mat, and as you reconnect the spine, make sure you don't skip over your lower back. Almost round and release your lower back, then allow your bum cheeks to touch so that your back comes into that natural S curve with that little space between your lower back and the mat. Gently hug your knees in towards the chest. Cradle rock your lower back out and find your way into corpse pose, Shavasana, which is traditionally how we would end off a yoga class, with a little bit of relaxation. Drop the arms at your sides, palms down. Extend one leg, softly rotating the inner thighs out and allowing the toes to splay to the corner of your mat, and then replicate on the other side. Once the legs are in position, think of lifting your shoulder blades off the mat, tucking them like little wings behind you, and then settling the whole weight of your body into the mat. Check that you're not arching through the neck. Softly nod your chin to your chest. Relax the tension from the back of your neck. Close your eyes, take your focus in, and we'll just work a soft relaxation and visualization exercise. Think of softening the skull, soften the bones of the head. Allow that softness to bleed down through the nose, the cheekbones, into the jawline. Softly nod your head side to side as if you were shaking your head no, to release the tension from your neckline and your collar line. Then come to stillness along the center line, checking that your chin is softly nodded down. Think of that softness in your jawline extending down through your neck, bleeding into your collar line, from the collar into the shoulders, down along the length of your arms and bleeding into each fingertip. Bring your focus back to your shoulders and your collar line, and allow that softness to bleed down through the chest, through the rib cage, through the lower spine and sacrum, into the pelvis and the hips. Soften the tops of your thighs. Allow that softness to extend down through the knee joints, into the shins, through the shins, down into the ankles, through the feet, and into each toe. Bring your focus back to your breath. Give me soft, gentle inhalations and exhalations. And with each exhalation, scan from your crown to your toes, softening, relaxing, and releasing, not only through the bones, but into the muscles and the skin that surround the bones, almost bleeding your body into the mat with each successive exhale, making yourself softer, more relaxed, more released with each exhale. Allow for that natural S curve and just soften, sigh, and relax. Allowing your palms to rotate softly up to the ceiling so that there's no tension in the arms. Allow the feet to softly splay out to the corners of the mat so that there's no tension along the thighs or the legs. Then gently bring your focus back into the room. Become aware of your surroundings. And when you're ready, with no particular rush at all, softly bend the knees, maybe connecting the soles of your feet to the mat for a second. Before softly hugging the knees in towards your chest, gently bracing around the knees or the shins, as you cradle rock your lower back out. And then roll over onto one side, preferably onto the right side of your body, using your bottom arm as a pillow, if you like, or just softly extending the arm out, whichever feels most comfortable, bending the knees and coming into a soft fetal-like position. Top hand either softly braced on your top thigh or pressed palm down into the mat in front of you as you stay here for a couple of gentle breath cycles, just giving your blood pressure and your body a chance to just stabilize. Open your eyes gently if they were closed, but keep them soft and unfocused as you push into the mat and find your way into a seated frame of your choice, maybe sitting in easy sit with one leg tucked in front of the other, or coming into that half lotus line that we played with, Ardha Padmasana. Gently think of lengthening first through the spine as you ground your bum bones into the mat, checking that you're evenly weighted, and then just float your hands into a gentle prayer, placing the palms of both hands softly together, allowing the fingertips to draw together along the center line, and pushing softly into the palms as you just drop your elbows softly down towards the mat, extending as much as you can through the spine. Close your eyes, take your focus in. And then we would traditionally close off our practice by just taking a little nod, bowing down, maybe touching your fingertips towards your lips, or allowing them to gently connect to your heart center, and end off with the words Namaste, which means the divine in me acknowledges the divine in you. In its most simplistic terms, it just means that I see you, I acknowledge you. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing energy with me today. Hope you enjoyed today's foundational class, taking it back to basics. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Shoot me your comments in the comments box, and make sure you are subscribed with your notification bell on. I shall see you all for Pilates conditioning tomorrow. We are working into the bum, the glutes. So come prepared to work. Until then, keep it light.